we want you to share with us what your experience in leadership has taught you about where our country finds itself now and where we think it ought to be and where it should be going.
You know, if you look at history, for example, the last 100 years, I mean, that's the year that we've basically ramped up in technology. There were powers, global powers, and I think that's on to check how does Africa fit within this whole global map. Of course, there was the rise of Germany with its strong science, and many of them went to America thanks to Hitler's very stupid views with regard to anti-Semitism. Lots of talent went to America, and guess who actually became the first nation to usher a new age? The nuclear age was America, right? And therefore we had the two main political elites competing for global domination, driven by what we call two basically technologies that we grew up under, that shaped us. The nuclear age, that determined world power, and the rocket age, because therefore you can take that nuclear bomb and put it into a rocket, then you have basically the control of space. It shaped, America was shaken to the core. MIT, all these institutions were pushed to the limit. Investments were made to leapfrog what basically was a third world country a few years, a century ago. America was a third world country of gunslingers into a global superpower. Don't forget the European backwater, where basically they removed all the riffraff they didn't want and sent them to America. And that country rose in 1950 to become the world leading nation, right? That defined the 20th century, which of course America prevailed because the Soviet Union got bankrupt and collapsed. And now you are seeing a new battlefront that Morris alluded to. The new battlefront won't be about, the space race, Brezhnev and Gorbachev and so on and so forth. Brezhnev and Nixon, Gorbachev and Reagan, remember those things. No, it will be about the battle of the technosphere. The 5G, quantum computing. The economist every year tells you who is investing in quantum computing, in this tech. So therefore, the next frontier of battle is invisible to us. That's the next battle of technosphere. It's playing out in diplomacy, in the Darachit that is showing between the outgoing president, who is gone now, and Xi Jinping. So it's becoming almost like digital diplomacy of actually who controls, as President Putin said, he or she, or rather quoted to have said, he who controls AI rules the world. And that's what the Marola alludes to, actually, my friend. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is, to use the Latin word, quo vadis, Africa, siempre epi novi, something new out of Africa. And we are actually nothing but spectators. You've got the ringside seat. I mean, we've been spectators for the last 500 years of human growth. And that actually is what really cooks my noodle. Keeps me awake at night, is where do we feature? So that is actually what... and finally, if you just indulge me a little bit, having said that, because I was just trying to extend from what Morris said in terms of response to COVID, you've mentioned corruption, you've mentioned other issues, but the key thing as well is kind of a Roosevelt moment, which I've been preaching about to my team. And I think maybe I'll talk about it in a second, but I maybe I should if I might. Is that this is nothing new. This too shall pass. In 1933, Roosevelt took over America, height of Great Depression, 4 years into the deep depression. I mean, I'm not an economist here. I've been a sheltered academic all my life. 4 years into deep depression, Capone rules Chicago. John Dillinger, whose movies you saw in those Bioscope, I'm a brand, Here is a man taking over a society in 1933, a democratic society, as it were at the time, because it discriminated against blacks in the South, in the world where democracy itself was falling apart. False prophets that promised to give you light and become these leaders, right? These proto-fascists that arose, nothing new there, became monsters of the 20th century. Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, Imperial Japan, incredible war criminals that ruled that world and were central strongmen, shaky Britain. And here is a man who is taking presidency, 1933, when his body is failing him, riddled with polio, tells Americans and the world that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. We must look to the better angels of us, right? And then someone asked him, some journalist from, I think, the New York Times, the New Yorker, or Washington Post, said, Mr. President, looking at his weak state of physical self, because the president must be robust, 6 feet tall, being an all-American leader like, John Wayne. And here's a frail man assuming this office. And said, why are you such an optimist, And he said, when you spend 2 years bedridden, and after 2 years you are able to wiggle your toe, you have every reason to be optimistic. So leadership is minted in the foundry of fire itself, not in good times. So we need to give people hope in a moment of fire, the furnace of fire. Diamonds are created under conditions in the alluvial plains of Earth of high temperature and pressure. Thank you.